Me, 26M, with my girlfriend 23F of 6 months. I found a notebook of hers. She used to be a. I met Monica in a pub where she was working as a waitress. She was really attractive, polite, and humorous. I was instantly taken, but I assumed she was simply being kind because, well, tips. Anyway, since it was a quiet night, she ended up staying out at my table with my friend and myself for the most of the evening. I discovered she was an undergrad at my institution. I'm a graduate student. We chit-chatted for a while, and to my surprise, she left her phone number on the receipt at the end of the night. Everything is going swimmingly. Monica is very driven in all aspects of her life. She is quadrilingual, linguistics is her major, and also studies programming on the side. She also finds time to go to the gym, attend dancing lessons, and look after me in her spare time. She comes by on my days off with day-off care packages, including vouchers for my favorite beers, sweets, and favors. Little embarrassing to admit that here, but I love it. Many of the occasions we go out, she insists on paying, as if she doesn't offer me the choice of paying for movie tickets before I arrive, or giving the waiter her card while I'm not looking. This may not seem important, but I'm noting it since I observed she only worked 1 day a week after a time. I realize that school, dancing lessons, rent, gas, food, trips, and other expenses are exorbitant. She also drives a beautiful automobile. I began to worry how she could possibly support herself, but she was usually quite covert about her finances. Savings, she usually replied. I didn't think it was my place to bring up the subject. She asked me over to her house when I got out of the lab tonight. We were enjoying a movie together when she received a phone call from her closest friend. She said that she needed to go for about 20 minutes, but asked that I remain. So I'm lying in her bed, relaxing, when I turn over and knock her water glass over on the nightstand. It up everything and seeps into the top drawer. I promise I wasn't snooping, but when I opened the drawer, the water started soaking the pages of one of her notebooks. I'm attempting to dry the notebook, cleaning each page as best I can, and I discover what I'm looking at, her 2014 budget book. She had completed a monthly income/expenditure chart, and the sum in the savings box was $52,000. I'm not proud, yet that piqued my interest. I know her parents are fairly blue-collar people. She grew up in a small town, and I'm ready to wager that's more money than they've ever had in their bank account, so I know it's not from them. I begin reading through the notebook. She has very extensive notes on 4 different males, with monthly salaries ranging from $2,000 to $5,000, noted next to their names. She also had dates from June 2013 to August 2014 when she saw them. All of her expenses were also documented on other pages, but I didn't spend any time looking at them. But I could see they were done with great care. She seems to keep track of everything. There were no additional entries with men's names. She still recorded the minimal amount of money from waitressing after we began dating, but I'm at a loss for what to do. She never told me about it. I'm also disappointed since we waited 2 months before sleeping together. She asked me to get an STD test. She did as well. We went together, and said she wanted to wait since she doesn't like flings. I'm not sure what I'm feeling. She was willing to other guys for money, but she never informed me, and then she waited 2 months before sleeping with me. Granted, our life is now fantastic, but I'm still uneasy. I put everything back on the nightstand when she arrived home, but I told her I had a headache and wanted to go home. I'm not sure whether she'll notice the notebook tonight. I put it back, but it's still moist, or if I should simply bring it up with her. Update. Anyway, the morning after, I trashed Monica's budget notebook. Monica texted me. Seems like we need to chat. I agreed, but due to our clashing schedules, I didn't get to visit her until the following morning. I won't go into specifics, but waiting was a nightmare. When I arrived at her house, I went into her bedroom, where she was seated on the bed. She was holding the notebook, and the cover had dried strangely from the water damage. She seemed anxious, but more apologetic is the only word that comes to mind. She just stares at me and replies, I'm assuming you're aware. Do you want to discuss it? Clearly, I did. So she asked me to sit next to her and begins a lengthy monologue. She was confronted with not just tuition bills, but also owing her parents about $20,000 that they had lent her for her first year of college a couple of summers before. She couldn't afford both, so she took a year off from our institution and worked as many hours as she could to pay off her parents. They really needed the money at the time. Basically, she was barely earning enough money to eat and was unhappy waiting tables at a restaurant she despised. She said she became interested went to a well-publicized sugar baby website, and began going on dates. As a result, some users were correct. She wasn't precisely a prostitute in the usual sense, but rather a sugar baby. If I was interested, she offered me to go through the notepad. She was straightforward about everything, showing me the numbers, the names, I was correct, just 4, and how she'd paid off her tuition in advance. When I inquired about the automobile, it was revealed that it was a type of present. Basically, the man made a substantial down payment on it and paid the monthly payments on it along with a standard allowance every month they were together. Apparently, she also visited New York City twice with one man who was madly in love with her, like wanted to marry her. They stayed at pretty beautiful hotels, went to performances, and did other things. I began to feel nervous at this point in the conversation. I know it sounds corny, but here I am trying to get her a Christmas gift this year when she was living at a world-class hotel 8 months ago. I want to be able to provide those things to her, but I can't even afford a Starbucks. I know she has modest taste and dislikes anything ostentatious. She did, however, make more than $10,000 a month at one time. Naturally, this drove me to wonder, why stop? And I know that's the corniest, cheesiest nonsense, but it meant so lot to me. She just shrugged and answered, "It's because I met you." I was overjoyed. When I asked whether she'd ever return, she made a D. She says the money is good, but she dislikes being touched by most people. I already knew this about her, which was another smaller reason that I was surprised when I figured things out. Her last genuine relationship ended in 2012, and it really screwed her up in certain respects, but that's a whole nother story. But in general, she's budgeted for things to last her for years. And in the meanwhile, she's studying things like her 4th language and computer programming and other things, so she never has to go back to that job again. Concerning the waiting for issue, she underlined, as others have, that with me was personal, intimate, and genuine. She didn't go too detailed, but she earlier said that her strategy was to perform the bare minimum and shut my eyes and think about England. She begged me to wait since that is what she is most comfortable with, not the characters she put on with these people. Anyway, after about 2 hours of discussion, I've determined it's not a deal breaker. We've all had less than ideal relationships, and she's been nothing short of fantastic to me. She's everything I've ever wanted in a woman, and I'm not sure what I did to earn her, but I'm not about to let her down because of her history. She gave me soup, gummy bears, and apple juice after class today since I was home ill. We snuggled while watching The Godfather. Nothing says romance like a gangster movie. Edit. I understand why she was afraid to inform me. I just got a page-long bizarre narrative about her hitting on bikers and forcing me to consume their cum. That's a great tale, buddy. She's only been with 6 men. I previously knew that was the case, but I didn't know the circumstances. I've been with 4 times as many women as she has, so how am I to judge her history? In any event, she is not mine. She did what she needed to do to get her life back on track, and I can blame her. As I already said, after seeing the hostility here and in my PM, I understand her point of view more than I thought possible. People were curious as to why she had to repay her parents so soon. I'd already met her parents, and this tale came up at some time. Her father is a maintenance worker who had his hand crushed in an automatic door at work one day. Even with insurance, they had to make big monthly payments, so my girlfriend agreed to begin repaying the debt right immediately. Her parents assumed the funds came from her waitressing employment.